Just going to pop open the lid, and there is the proper packaging for the Oppo Find 7. All right, looks like we have some plastic to take off here, so I'm just going to cut it along the side. So once again, Oppo has done a really nice job with packaging design. So we have this nice clamshell case on the back. We have all of our specs lined up here, so you know exactly what you're getting. Now this phone is compatible with GSM carriers such as AT&T and T-Mobile on their LTE networks. Alright, so let's just lift the lid here. And as you can see here, this shell is actually plastic. It's not cardboard or anything like that. Again, high-end materials. There we have the Oppo 7 sitting in its tray here. You can see the profile of the device. And if we pull up this tab, we can lift up the phone, and on the back you can see I have the Astro Black, which I think is really neat. It kind of has a carbon fiber look and a carbon fiber texture to it. Alright, so let's set that aside for just a moment while we take a look at the packaging contents here. So we're going to lift this up. In the upper right corner, we'll find all the standard array of accessories, including a micro USB charging cable. We also have a set of in-ear headphones, which includes an inline remote control and microphone. This is just a single-click remote control. There are no volume controls on this unit. The headphones are in-ear style. You can see they do come included with replacement ear tips, so you can find the right size for you. Now, the earphones themselves look pretty high quality. They have these metal earpieces, so they look quite nice. They're definitely better than the standard array of plastic in-ear headphones that you typically see with phones. Now, as you can see here, I have the international version. You can purchase a US version with a US wall charger, but the charger here, as you can see here, is quite large, and that's because this is a VOOC high-speed charger. So that means the battery inside this phone is also compatible with VOOC charging, basically meaning that you can charge the phone from 0 to 75% in only half an hour. Now, let's go ahead and pull this out here. So you can see we have our cable nice and wrapped in the packaging here. Again, just a standard micro USB charging cable. Now we also have our packaging here with this sort of linen design. Again, pretty nice quality here. Pop open here, and you'll see that we have that VOOC battery, 3,000 milliamp hour battery right here. So you can see that VOOC, VOOC battery designed by Oppo, or Oppo, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Now we also have our paperwork, VOOC rapid charging information, important information guide, and quick start guide. Alright, so let's get back to the phone here. So as you can see here, it's wrapped in plastic. We're just going to peel this off. We also have one more piece of plastic covering the bezel down here, which also hides the LED notification light. Now to release the back panel of the Find 7, there's a little pinhole button toward the right bottom edge. So you can use a SIM ejection tool as I have here, or a paper clip. So let's go ahead and pull this off. So again, just push on that pin until it pops, and then you can work the back panel off. So with the back panel removed, we can see we have our NFC panel back here with those connections toward the side, and those connect to the pins right here just next to the micro SIM tray. Alright, so let's go ahead and drop in our battery here. Snaps into place. It's pretty firm. You can see that we have our micro SIM tray right here, along with a micro SD card slot right next to the battery. So you have to remove the battery in order to install that. Up top, you have that 13 megapixel camera along with a dual LED flash right below it. Now down toward the bottom, you'll find your stereo speakers, which are hidden behind a single grill when the case is installed. Alright, so let's go ahead and snap the cover back on here. Alright, so let's go and take a look at the design of the Oppo Find 7, starting with the front panel now. The big news here is that 5.5-inch QHD display with 534 pixels per inch, a really sharp, colorful display. Now, if you look toward the top here, you'll see that we actually have a 5 megapixel front-facing camera, an ambient light sensor, and proximity sensor, along with a earpiece. But you'll see around those elements a cutout, and that's because this has a screen shield that has been applied at the factory. This can be removed, but it's a pretty high quality screen shield, so if it does wear out over time, you can remove it and add your own if you prefer. Now at the bottom edge, just off the display, you'll find a pulsing notification light. Very interesting application here. You can see it kind of disappears into the plastic bezel, really sharp. And then you can see that we have our off-screen Android keys. So we have our home button, back button, and recent apps or menu button. You can see that these are kind of dimly lit. This is actually similar to the OnePlus One in terms of how bright they are, but you can see the design is also very similar. Now again, on the back panel, we have NFC built into this rear shell, which looks like carbon fiber, but it really isn't. It's just plastic, but it has this nice texture to it, which does simulate carbon fiber. And then you have your Oppo branding here. You can see in that chrome finish along with a dual LED flash, a 13 megapixel camera, again capable of recording video at 4K resolution. And then we have a pinhole microphone just above that. Now also on the back toward the bottom is our set of stereo speakers, which are rear facing here. And if you look really closely here, you'll find this little bump which prevents the speakers from being muffled when laid flat on the surface. Now on the right hand side we have our volume rocker instead of our sleep wake power on and off button. Also toward the bottom here again is that little pinhole port for ejecting the back cover. And on the left hand side we'll find our sleep wake power on and off button, which to me is kind of a strange location for it, at least if you're right-handed. Alright, so let's go and take a look at the user interface. As you can see here, you have double tap to wake up the lock screen. You can also double tap the home button to put it back to sleep. If we unlock here, we can take a look at our available home screens. So you can see here it's a pretty familiar interface. You drag and drop your own apps or widgets. You can pinch in and out to see all your available home screens or add new ones. You can also tap and hold on them to rearrange them or drag them up to delete. You can also select which one you want to be the home screen just by tapping the little icon in the upper corner. Now you have a secondary home screen editor here which gets you to other options. So again, you can rearrange them, you can delete them, or you can add new home screens. Now we also have something called Photo Space, which you can delete if you want. And just to show you what Photo Space is all about, it's basically a page dedicated to the camera as well as gallery. So you can take photographs within this app. So for example, you can launch the camera and you have a widget with the camera app and you can take photographs. And it basically gives you this little timeline here of all your photos. You can also quickly jump to your camera or your gallery right here. You can also jump to your available apps like so. And you can add additional app shortcuts here. So you can see two have already been added, such as the video editor and the voice recorder. And you can go here and add different shortcuts or apps to this tray. Now you can delete this if you don't want, just by going to the editor here and Xing out this page if you prefer. Now you can see here that we have several other options here. So we can add widgets, we can change our wallpaper, we can change the effects, which are basically the transition effects that are available here. And then you can change your themes, and there are lots of themes, which I'll explore later when we take a look at the themes panel. Now getting back to that home screen editor, you have this little icon here which takes you to additional options. So we have exclusive space and live weather. So exclusive space is referring to that secondary homepage I showed you earlier called Photo Space, which you can toggle on and off right here. You can also add another one here called Music Space, so that will add another screen, again dedicated to music apps and that sort of thing. Now if we go to live weather, this is basically a home screen option which animates the home screen depending on weather conditions. Now you can tie this directly to your current weather conditions, or you can manually select them. So for example, we have dandelion, sunny, rain, snow, fog, cloudy, and thunderstorm. So if you select thunderstorm, you can see that we have that thunderstorm effect added to the home screen. And what you can see here, you have a flash of lightning, and even when it's raining, you'll actually get a splashing effect around the icons, which is kind of neat. Now, of course, we have foldered items here, and we have a little editor up here. So you can change the text of the folder name, or you can go up to this editor and just batch add apps to the folder. So this is, I think, a little easier than dragging and dropping every app you want to the folder. You can just find the ones you want and add it to the folder, which is nice. Now, through our drop-down notification sheet, you can see we have all of our notifications here, which you can swipe out of the way to delete or access by tapping them. You can see here that I have my quick access toggles right up here, which are expandable, so you can basically drag them down here to see all your toggles, which is actually quite nice. You can adjust your brightness or set it to auto brightness by tapping right here. Now you can see we have Bluetooth syncing, lock now for locking the screen and the see which you can toggle on and off. We have Wi-Fi hotspot, airplane mode, power saving mode, quiet time for do not disturb settings, GPS, Wi-Fi, mobile data, ring or volume settings, and all to close all the background apps, which is kind of different. I haven't seen that before. You also have all the screen rotate. Now you can also tap and hold on any one of these icons to take you directly to the settings panel here. So you have Wi-Fi, and of course you can also just quickly toggle them on and off. Now just to show you the settings panel, let's bring that drop down shade here again. Go right to settings. You can see it's divided into these three tabs: general, sound, and display. Now in landscape orientation, the drop down shade does a few interesting things. You can see that we have all of our notifications on the right hand side and all of our quick setting toggles on the left. Now taking a look at the app drawer, you can see all the available apps here. Some of them have actually been foldered for us already, so you can see tools, security services. So if you go to tools, you'll find flashlight, the compass, the download manager, user manual, online system, Kingsoft Office, which is basically an office viewer, allows us to view office type documents such as Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. We also have security services, which includes app encryption, data saving, guest mode, quiet time for do not disturb settings, permission monitor, and blocking mode. Now the blocking mode is interesting. You actually find it in the phone dialer, and if you go to settings here, you'll find this anti-harassment option, which allows you to add different numbers and that sort of thing to your blacklist. Now you can tap and hold on these apps and drag them to the home screen like so, or swipe up here to cancel that process. You go back to the app screen and you tap and hold on them and release it. You can see you can sort alphabetically or uninstall the apps that are available for uninstallation. Now you can drag and drop items to create folders if you prefer, so you can folder apps within the app drawer. Now if you swipe down on the right, you get to the standard drop-down notification shade. But if you swipe down on the left quarter, you'll get to this gesture panel, which allows us to enter in certain gestures that activate certain features. So for example, if I draw a circle, this will activate the camera. Now I can also swipe again down here and draw a V to activate the flashlight. So you can see I have a flashlight here with on and off as well as SOS. Now these gestures can also be used on the lock screen. So again, if you draw a circle, it activates the camera. And again, if you draw a V, it activates the flashlight. Now these settings are highly customizable, more so than the OnePlus, which also features some of this. So for example, if you go to gestures and motion, you actually have two places to configure. You have custom gesture and you have screen off gestures. So if you go to custom gesture here, this is that drop down shade. And here you can add new ones. So if you go to new, you can see the ones that are available for us for custom tasks. So for example, if you want to go to a website, we can add a certain website. Let's go to The Verge. Let's click OK and draw the gesture. So let's just do W. So now if I bring this drop down shade and draw that W, it will launch the browser, in this case Chrome, right into The Verge. Now this gesture will not work on the lock screen. Those are independently controlled here and they're not customizable. So for example, if we go to settings here, if we go to gestures and motion and again go to screen off gestures, you can see the ones that are available to us. You can see there's quite a few of them. All you have to do is toggle them on and off and select the action you want. So you have upward arrow, downward arrow, right arrow, left arrow for skipping through tracks, that sort of thing. So lots of options which are quite useful. Now you can use some of these existing gestures. So for example, that W gesture, you can go to a website and again customize what website you want. Now to get to Google Now, just tap and hold the home button. Takes you right to Google Now. You can also tap and hold the options button right here to activate the multitasker here. So you can see the multitasker not only has this card view which allows you to swipe apps out of the way to close them, but you can also see how much RAM you're using currently with these apps, and you can clear them all just by tapping this icon right here, and it clears out everything. Now the Oppo Find 7 is really big into themes here. In fact, they put it right on the home screen, the main home screen. So this allows you to select any number of free themes to download, and there's tons and tons of them. I mean, you can continue scrolling until you find the exact one you want. And once you select the theme you want, so for example, let me go ahead and pick anything here. Let's go with this one. So you can see a preview of the theme. You can swipe between them. If you want it, go ahead and click download. Downloads it for you. And you can click apply to apply it, or you can go to your editor to adjust it. So for example, if we go to themes here, you can go to local theme. These are all your downloaded themes. And now you can select it and it will apply it. So as you see here, it basically changes the icons and the wallpaper. Now you can also personalize the theme such as the wallpaper, so you can select your own wallpaper if you prefer. And again, there's lots of wallpapers to download. You can also go to the local wallpapers, the ones that are available on your device. And you can also customize your lock screen. Again, there's lots of lock screens to pick from, and you can see the ones that come included with your device, including the original lock screen. And I think the one that may be the most interesting is the weather unlock. Again, it just reflects the current weather with kind of this nice animation. Now, if you go to the settings panel, there's another option here, which is the voice wake up command. Now, we can enable this, but we can't change the wake up word. So the wake up word is Hey Snapdragon. So this is basically what wakes up Google Now, as you see just there. So you can do this from a locked state. So for example, if we lock the screen here, Hey Snapdragon, what's the weather like tomorrow in Detroit?
Tomorrow's forecast for Detroit is 81 degrees and partly cloudy.
Now, even on the lock screen, you can't just say, okay, Google. You have to say, hey, Snapdragon. Now, when the app is running, you can't say, hey, Snapdragon. You have to say, okay, Google. What's the weather like tomorrow in Miami? Now, I also have custom air gestures, and this only works with certain Oppo apps. So you can see the ones that are available right now. We can also add additional Oppo apps here if you want. So you can enable this feature or disable if you prefer. And this only works in those apps in certain ways. So for example, if we go to the email app here, you can see I have a list of my emails. I can use my finger to swipe through the list, or I can use a hand gesture to swipe down to refresh, swipe up to scroll down, and that sort of thing. Now we also have this camera gesture. So no matter where you are, if you're browsing the web, all you have to do is use a 3-finger pinch gesture to bring up the camera. Now there's a few other gesture options under System. So we have Prevent Misoperation. So if you enable this, this will use the proximity sensor to determine whether your phone is in your pocket or not, so it won't accidentally trigger any of those gesture operations when the screen is locked, which is very nice to have. We also have gesture screenshots, so when you enable this, you can use a 3-finger swipe to take a screen grab. Now we also have our battery manager. This allows us to, for example, enable power saving mode or see our power consumption history. You can see my complete history here. You can see it was depleted in my initial on-screen testing, and the on-screen time was about 6 hours, so that's pretty decent. And you can see how quickly it charges with that rapid charger. Now we also have power saving mode, so if you turn this on, you can adjust the settings here. So you can see we have screen power saving, close touch feedback, and turn off GPS, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, data network, so you can enable that if you prefer. Now if you go to About Phone, you'll see that we're running ColorOS, which is Oppo's in-house operating system or skin on Android. You can see the version we're running. You can see that we're on Android 4.3 right now. We also have a quad-core 2.5 gigahertz, 3 gigs of RAM. You can see the build number, status, that sort of thing. You can also check for system updates. Now if you hit the volume button, you get to more volume options, and here you can individually control all of the settings. You can also tap here to mute some of these volumes. Now I can also change the volume anywhere on the system just by using a 2-finger up and down gesture. So as you can see here, I can increase volume or I can decrease it all the way to vibrate mode. Now if you tap and hold the power button, you get to power off or restart, silent or vibrate, or airplane mode. Now the keyboard does a few interesting things, especially with voice. This is a test of the voice keyboard. So as you can see here, I get several options to pick from. So instead of having to go back to edit, instead I may have an option here that's better suited. Now we also have this gesture button, which you can tap and hold to get to your settings. But this gesture button can be used in a number of ways. So for example, you can swipe to A to select all, swipe to C to copy, swipe to V to paste. Or you can also launch some apps, such as Google Maps, just by swiping from this to G to M. Now you can also tap here to jump to various keyboards. So you have your directional keyboard with some other editing tools such as cut, copy, and paste and directional tools. You can also go to a split keyboard or a right justified or left justified or the full QWERTY keyboard. Now my favorite feature of this keyboard is the suggested word panel right here. As you can see here, you can basically just continue scrolling through it until you find the word you like. Now taking a look at the camera app, you can take your photograph, you can tap and hold to take a burst shot. You can tap anywhere on the scene to change exposure and focus. You can tap anywhere on the scene to lock exposure and focus. And as you can see, it actually reacts really quickly, takes the photograph really quickly as well. You can also go to your settings here and change things like your resolution. So you can go here for video mode. You can see 4K is available. Now 4K quality is really impressive on this phone, but like most smartphones that record in 4K, it does get really hot to the touch. It does zap through the battery pretty quickly. So you want to use 4K sparingly for short bursts of time, but it does a really nice job otherwise. You also have your scene modes, which includes things like night, portrait, smart scene, sports, landscape, or auto. You also have your flash settings, so you have auto, on or off, and you have fill light. Fill light basically turns on the flash at all times, so that's particularly good when you're recording video. You can also go up here to access your other features such as Beauty Face. Now this basically softens the image and brightens it up so it makes faces look a little smoother, a little younger. In fact, it's great for the front-facing or selfie camera. You also have HDR mode, you have normal mode, and you have Ultra HD. I'll talk about that in just a moment. You also have GIF, so you can record videos in GIF mode. You have audio, photos, so if you take a photograph, you can record a quick audio segment, so you snap a photograph. This is just a test of audio photo. Now we also have something called slow shutter, which duplicates the DSLR capability of variable shutter speed. So this allows us to, for example, expose the scene more properly. This only works really if you have the phone stabilized on a tripod or something like that. So it keeps the shutter open for an extended period of time. So for example, you can bring it all the way up to 32 seconds or bring it all the way down to 0.5 seconds. You take a photograph here at 0.5 seconds. So it's really intended for low light conditions, and the results are pretty neat. Now, Ultra HD is a feature that Oppo uses on a lot of its smartphones. Basically, what this does is that when you take an Ultra HD photograph, it takes 10 photographs at once and stitches them together for a 50 megapixel image. So the idea here is that you have a lot of resolution to work with. So when you look at one of those photographs, you can really pinch in and out to see the detail, and it actually works pretty well. Now, when recording video, you can pinch in and out to zoom. Tap anywhere to focus. You can also pause recording or resume it. You can snap a photograph. And this works in either 4K or any other resolution. So look at our Geekbench 3 scores. You can see the Oppo Find 7 beats the similarly spec'd LG G3 by a comfortable margin. I'm not sure why this is, but you can see that the Oppo Find 7 is over 1,000 on the single core and almost 3,000 on the multi-core score. This despite the fact that they are using the same 2.5 gigahertz quad-core processor, 3 gigs of RAM, and pretty much the same specs overall. Adreno 330 and everything like that, the same Quad HD display, so it's not clear exactly why these differ, but you can see the Oppo Find 7 is quite a powerhouse. Now, in terms of the LG G3's display versus the Oppo Find 7, there is a big difference here. The LG G3 is a much warmer and brighter display than the Oppo Find 7. The Oppo Find 7 is a little cooler. But Danny Widget did an excellent video comparing all the QHD displays out there right now. So I'm going to link to that video in the description below, so make sure you check that out. So in conclusion, the Oppo Find 7 has two real standout features here, the QHD display and the camera. So this QHD display is one of the first to come onto market, along with the LG G3 and later with the Galaxy S5 LTE-A or Prime, which I reviewed earlier. So this is one of the first QHD displays on a handset. So again, excellent display, bright and colorful with accurate color reproduction and really clear and sharp text. Now you're not going to notice the difference right away, especially if you're used to a 1080p display, but I think if you jump between the two, you will notice it eventually. So again, you get sharper images, photographs look really clear, text looks really sharp, and generally speaking, it's an excellent display. And of course, we have that impressive 13 megapixel camera with 4K video recording and some interesting features like Ultra HD photography, which is actually very useful, as well as slow shutter speed, which can be useful for certain situations. Now, we also have excellent rear-facing stereo speakers which deliver excellent results. So you get clear audio, deep bass, and lots of dynamic range. So I'm really impressed overall by these speakers. Some of the best sounding, especially some of the best sounding rear-facing speakers I've used. Now, they're certainly not as good as HTC One M8's front-facing speakers, but the quality is definitely up there. It's definitely one of the loudest speaker systems I've heard on the phone. Now, I'm not a big fan of the placement of the sleep-wake button on the left-hand side. Unless you're left-handed, this is kind of out of reach, especially on a large smartphone. Now, it's not as necessary on this phone because you do have those gestures. You can double-tap the screen to wake it up or double-tap the home button to put it to sleep, so you don't really need it. But out of instinct, I'm always pressing the volume button on the right-hand side instead of the sleep-wake button. That's something you do have to get used to over time, and I haven't been able to get used to it just yet. So with a 5.5-inch QHD display, a 13-megapixel camera with excellent 4K video recording and Ultra HD photography, with some really useful software features and that super fast charger, the Oppo Find 7 has a lot of unique features to offer. So that's going to do for me.